What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married to Medicine Season 9, Episode 8. Let's get into Toya. So, Toya's at home with her kids, and Eugene is there as well. He's outside watching a game, and she's having a conversation with her son, her oldest son. Evidently, the boy was accused of stealing one of his friends' video games, or one of his friends' games, when he was at a sleepover. And so Toya calls Eugene in, and the child starts explaining what happened to Eugene, and Eugene tells him that you have to be really careful with who you choose to be as your friend and who you hang out with. It was a very sad situation, and it made me really upset, that the child was accused of taking something that he didn't take. And I hope that they're not going to allow their son to be around this group of boys ever again. So then Toya and Eugene start arguing. I think they were arguing about, I'm not sure, it didn't make any sense to me, but I think they were arguing about Eugene not spending enough time with the boys, because Toya said that when she was in Las Vegas, she says that Eugene would go to work for 12 hours and then he would sleep for 10 hours, and they never went outside. They never did anything. They stayed in the house the whole entire time that she was in Vegas. And so while they're going back and forth, their son was like, "Why do y'all always argue?" And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. When your children are saying that, you need to pay attention. You need to listen, and you need to change your ways. You can have a disagreement, but just have it behind closed doors, away from the children, in private. Can we do that? So I don't know why Toya was expecting Eugene to work 12 hours and then go run around with the boys all day and then barely get any sleep. He's a doctor, so we need him to be, fully aware and awake and on point. Moving on. Dr. Jackie, she meets up with Heavenly, and Heavenly tells Dr. Jackie that her mom is back in the hospital, and I guess, the hospital is giving her information on hospice. So that's a very sad situation. So, speaking about Heavenly and her mother, who is probably not doing very well health wise, this is a reason why you can't be mean to people. You can't say mean things to people because you don't know what they're going through. Heavenly has done her stuff, yes. But, the calling out of okay, we're going to get to it later when they go to Dr. Simone's house. But the talking to each other rudely, cussing each other out, it's not good to do that no matter what, because you don't know what someone's going through. Now, how are you going to feel that, you cuss somebody out, royally cuss them out, call them out of their name, and then the next thing you hear that their parent passed away, or you cuss somebody out about some nonsense, and then as soon as you part ways, they get into a car accident and you never see them again. It's like there's always a way to handle things. You can have disagreements, you can express your disapproval of what your friends are doing or what people are doing, but just how you go about it, to me, I think that's really important. But moving on. Akila, her parents arrive. Kieran gives the parents rules, all the do's and don'ts of the house. One of the rules was washing your hands before you cook. Did that really have to be written out? Is that something that most people don't do? The mother was really upset. What's her name? Not Akila, Anila. I don't know why I'm calling her Akila. Anila's mom was really upset. And she was like, "I don't follow rules. I'm the parent. I give the rules. I don't follow rules." Moving on, Dr. Simone. So Dr. Simone and Cecil, they invite Heavenly and Damon, Contessa, and Scott to their home because Simone and Cecil are writing a book about a relationship advice book. And they want some input from these two couples. Now, Dr. Simone said that she was under the impression that Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Contessa had already made up in Vegas, so there was no problem with inviting these two women at the same event. So when they're sitting down having dinner, Damon said that one thing that women don't understand is that words hurt. And when he said that, it made me feel like he was referring to Heavenly, because she's the one that's saying the things out there that are hurting her so-called friends. And so he goes on about that. He's talking about how words hurt. And Contessa was like, "Are you talking about Heavenly?" And he says that Dr. Damon went on to say that people will say stuff and it's a punchline the next time. excuse me, the next time that you see them. You know, you say hurtful things and then it just becomes a joke the next time that you see these people. And so Contessa and Simone were like, you must be referring to Heavenly. And Heavenly says, no, he's talking about y'all. So Simone and Contessa says, no, girl, he's talking about you. So then Heavenly says, don't put stuff out there about your relationship if you don't want the world to talk about it. If you feel like this is top secret stuff, don't talk about it. You yourself don't put it out there. Heavenly has a point with that. If you don't want people to say negative things about your marriage or your husband, don't you start doing it. Don't you start saying negative things, because that's one thing I'll never understand. It's like you say negative things about yours, and they both did it. Contessa and Scott both did it. You put your issues out there, and I understand that you want to be relevant, and I understand that you want to show that, hey, we're like everybody else. We have problems. I get that. But I felt like with Contessa and Scott, it got ugly. It got mean between the two of them. And because Jackie and what's that man's name? Jackie and her husband, you know, they had issues, right? Major issues. But it never got nasty. You know, it was classy. You could tell that there was issues there, but it never got really, really nasty. When you start talking negatively about your spouse in public, you're opening the door for everybody else to talk negatively about your spouse. And I feel like with Contessa and Scott, that's what they did. I feel like that's why Heavenly feels comfortable saying the things that she says about them on her YouTube channel, because she saw how they were treating each other with absolutely no respect. So she felt like she could do it too, which, you know, obviously I feel like she shouldn't have done that. I think it's very touchy when you go into people talking about people's marriages, talking about their parenting. Is you're entering a very, very sensitive area. But whatever. That's Heavenly's point. Don't put yourself out there if you don't want people talking about it. So then Dr. Damon was trying to get Heavenly to stop talking because Heavenly and Contessa were going at it. And so Damon says that it really broke his heart. It bothered him to the core that Contessa and Heavenly were involved in this BS. And Contessa says, this is not BS. This is real life. And Dr. Damon was like, this is it. This is BS. And I felt like he meant to say, this is real BS because it's not necessary. You know, y'all, it doesn't have to go this far. You know, there's a way for us to resolve this and never go down this road again, because it's not necessary, you know, for y'all to have this conflict. And of course, he should put most of the blame on his wife. You know, she started it all, but whatever. I think he was addressing his wife as well. And he was just like, it is BS because it's not necessary. And so in her confessional, Contessa says, I'm not your wife. Don't lecture me. We make the same amount of money. We have the same credentials. We have the same letters behind our names. So don't lecture me. I don't know why Contessa was going so hard against Dr. Damon when Dr. Damon was just trying to make peace of the whole situation. He was just trying to find some type of reconciliation for the two women. I don't know why she was attacking him like that. Is it because your husband could care less if you reconcile with your friends? If you're out there making yourself look like a damn fool, he doesn't care? Is that why it bothered you, Contessa? That another woman's husband cared about, you know, the fact that y'all's friendship is completely ruptured? So then Heavenly tells Contessa, because I guess Dr. Damon was trying to say something. Contessa was over talking him. And so Heavenly tells Contessa, can you please respect the man enough just to shut up? And Contessa was like, no, you shut the F up, Heavenly. And so then Dr. Damon was like, you know what? I'm out of here. So he gets up and he leaves. And Contessa said, before he left, Contessa was telling Dr. Damon, you know, you're taking Heavenly's side. Well, number one, he wasn't taking Heavenly's side. I don't think he was. I think he was addressing his wife as well, because he had clearly told Heavenly, you know, I had told you to stop. I told you to stop. I don't know if he was referring to her YouTube or referring to how she was talking at that moment, but he had referred to her and said, you know, I had told you to stop. And so he was calling her out as well. I don't think, and even if he was taking his wife's side, that's his wife. What's wrong with that? That's something else that you're not used to, right, Contessa? You're not used to spouses standing up for each other. Well, now you're trying to do it because now you're trying to make it look like you and your husband are in a really good space to try to prove Heavenly wrong. That's the only reason why there's no conflict between you and Scott right now. It's not because of the therapy. It's because you're trying to prove to Heavenly, you're talking crap about my marriage. My marriage is just fine. So you want to make her look like a liar, right, to kind of get back at her. So I feel like Damon was definitely addressing Heavenly because when they left, he definitely addressed her. He was like, you know what, I had told you to stop doing this, but you just don't listen. So when Contessa was like, we make the same amount of money, like, what does this have to do with money, credentials, education? What does that have to do with what's going on right now, Contessa? Damon tells Heavenly that every time we go out, with your friends, there's always a problem. And Heavenly said, well, it's not my fault. And Dr. Damon says, but you play a part in it. Dr. Damon was like talking sense at that table, complete common sense. And for Contessa just to overtalk him and shout at him and then say in her confessional, I'm not your wife, don't. It was so rude and so uncalled for. It made her look really, kind of icky to me. Just made her look bad. Made her look really, really bad. Now, back to Dr. Heavenly's YouTube channel, when she says that this stuff is already talked about on the show. The things that I talk about on my YouTube, it's already talked about on the show. It's already out there. Contessa puts it out there. True enough. The problem is that Heavenly, you and Contessa made it seem like y'all were friends. So here you are on your YouTube channel saying very negative things about her husband. And it just doesn't make any sense because you were supposed to be her friend. Now, Heavenly rags on Toya all day and all night. When she's not talking about Contessa and when she's not kissing Dr. Jackie's butt, she is ragging on Toya like it's nobody's business. I could understand that. The things that you say about Toya and her marriage, whatever, I get that because you don't like her. But we thought you liked Contessa up until, I saw your YouTube channel. I thought you liked Contessa. I thought that was your friend. So the things that you're saying about her husband possibly being abusive and whatever else, that's why it's like confusing. It's not necessarily like you're doing something wrong. It's just like it's confusing because it just doesn't make any sense. This is supposed to be your friend, but you're ragging on her, and you're doing it under the guise of I'm just reviewing a show. Things were said on the show, and my YouTube channel is an extension of the show. I don't get that. I don't see how is your YouTube channel an extension of the show? How is you saying that her husband is abusive to her? How is that an extension of the show? And another thing, the stuff that's put out there on the show, fine. But it's put out there on the show. Like if she says something, then you can respond. When you say something, then she can respond. Then y'all can handle it right then and there. But for you to get on your channel and then start saying things about her marriage and start saying things about her husband, I don't know. It looks bad to me. It looks kind of bad. It doesn't look right. That's not what friends should do. Just because it's put on the show doesn't mean that you come back on your YouTube channel and start just dragging her whole entire marriage to the mud. Well, she talked about her husband. She talked about her marriage, so I can do it too. But it's not like y'all are talking about it together on the show. You're going to a whole nother platform, entertaining a whole nother group of people, and you're saying horrible things. Anyways, like I've said too much. I'm just repeating myself. So anyways, Dr. Jackie, she has her O-Shot party. Heavily couldn't come because, she's stressed out about her mother. At the O-Shot party, they were talking about Heavenly, and Contessa had said that Heavenly took it completely left. I think she was referring to Dr. Simone's dinner. And Quad said, well, she took it left because her mom is dying right now. And so then Contessa leads them in prayer for Heavenly's mom. This is what I'm talking about. You can't, for her to say, shut the F up, Heavenly. Why do you have to talk so ugly in a situation where somebody's trying to make peace? And it's just horrible. It's just, I mean, what if something happens to her mom? Now you're going to have to put all your anger to the side if you can. And you have to try to be there for her now. And now it's really awkward between y'all. If you have a disagreement, have a disagreement. But why do you have to be so ugly and take it so low like that and start calling each other out of y'all's names? I just don't understand. So all of them got an O-Shot except for Anila. Her mom was there with her, and her mom told her, no, you're not doing that. You're not getting that. And, everybody was like, how do you bring your mom to an O-Shot party? And then Toya was like, you're a 40-something-year-old woman. Why are you even listening to your mom? Do whatever the hell you want to do with your body. Why are you listening to your mommy? Anyways, it is what it is. So I don't agree with the things that Dr. Heavenly is saying about her friend's marriage, her husband, whatever you want to call it. I don't agree with that. Her talking about her talking about Toya, fine. They don't like each other. I don't see a problem with that because they don't like each other. It makes sense for her to talk about Toya. Her talking about Quad. Every time somebody brings up Quad, why are you talking about Quad? She's your friend. You're putting it out there that she's sleeping with married men. Dr. Helen's like, I was just joking. I was just joking. I was just kidding. I was just joking. Okay, fine, whatever. If Quad thinks it's a joke and she thinks it's hilarious that you're on your YouTube channel talking to thousands of people telling them that she's sleeping with married men, if Quad thinks it's funny, I think it's funny. Moving on. That is the end of my review. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, please subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.